Have you ever paused long enough to notice how much of yourself you give away without even realizing it? You answer every message within seconds. You say yes, even when your heart screams no. You hold space for others, listen to their worries, calm their storms, while your own inner world grows heavy and neglected. This pattern feels normal because you've been conditioned to believe that being available is a virtue. From childhood, you were taught that your worth lies in how much of yourself you can offer to others. But here's the truth no one tells you. Excessive availability is not a strength. It's a quiet form of self-abandonment. When you are always available, people stop seeing your presence as a gift. Instead, they see it as a given, an entitlement. You become predictable. And everything predictable eventually becomes invisible. The irony is, the more you show up for everyone else, the more you begin to disappear from yourself. Carl Jung understood this deeply when he spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole, of stepping out of the masks we wear for others and returning to our authentic self. But individuation doesn't begin with adding more to your plate. It begins with taking away. Imagine this. You stop rushing to reply to every message. You pause before answering that call. You decline the invitation you don't want to attend. You step back from the chaos and simply let yourself breathe. At first, it feels wrong, almost selfish. But then something profound happens. The silence you create becomes a mirror for those around you. They panic, they question. They reach out with a new urgency. Why? Because they were never prepared for your absence. They were only ever comfortable with your constant presence. And in that shift, something even more revealing occurs. You begin to see people for who they really are. Some will respect your space. Some will be patient. But others, the ones who are never truly there for you, will become irritated, even angry. They will accuse you of changing. They will try to provoke you, guilt you, or pull you back into their narrative. Pay close attention to these reactions. They don't reveal anything about your worth. They reveal everything about how these people benefited from your lack of boundaries. When you stop being available at every moment, you reclaim your energy. And energy is not infinite. It is the currency of your soul. Every time you give an automatic yes, every time you react emotionally, every time you force yourself to be present for someone who doesn't value your presence, you spend that precious currency. By the end of the day, you're left drained, hollow, wondering why you feel so tired, so unseen. But here's the answer. You are too available for those who don't even deserve a minute of your silence. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's not about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about choosing yourself, perhaps for the first time in your life. It's about recognizing that your time, your attention, your emotional availability are sacred offerings, not obligations. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." So, consider this. When you withdraw, who gets irritated? Who tries to pull you back? Who accuses you of being selfish or difficult? These are the people who relied not on your presence, but on your predictability. Your predictability has been your prison. Every time you jumped at a request, every time you explained yourself unnecessarily, every time you forced a smile when you wanted to cry, you placed another bar on the cage. But the moment you pause, truly pause, the bars begin to dissolve. The world doesn't collapse without your constant availability. Instead, the truth emerges. People don't want you. They want what you give them. They want validation, comfort, attention, distraction. And as long as you keep giving freely, they will keep taking without pause. But the second you choose to say no, the second you stop explaining yourself, they reforce to reckon with the reality they avoided, that you are not theirs to consume. This is why your withdrawal is so powerful. It's not just an act of self-preservation, it's an act of revelation. When you stop being available, the masks around you begin to fall. You see who values you for who you are, and who values you only for what you provide. But let's be honest, this is not an easy journey. The first step feels heavy. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too harsh, too distant, too cold. That's the voice of conditioning speaking. The voice that has trained you to believe your worth is tied to your usefulness. And yet, as Jung taught, there is no wholeness without confrontation. You must confront this belief, tear it apart, and rebuild from the ground up. So, I ask you, how long will you let others dictate your worth? How long will you be the emotional emergency button they press when they need comfort, only to be set aside when they no longer require you? How long will you abandon yourself to hold the weight of others? The day you choose to step back, the game changes. And those who thought they knew you will realize they never knew you at all. This is not weakness. This is sovereignty. Carl Jung didn't see the human psyche as a machine, endlessly capable of reacting, giving, and absorbing without consequence. He understood it as an energy system, delicate, dynamic, and finite. Every thought, every emotional reaction, every action you take draws from that inner reservoir of energy. And here's the question: are you consciously deciding where that energy goes? Or are you allowing the world to pull it from you without your permission? Take a moment to reflect on how often you feel drained, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Think about the countless times you defended yourself against a criticism that didn't deserve your attention. The times you responded to a passive-aggressive remark just to prove you were right. The hours spent arguing in your head with someone long after the conversation ended. All of these moments have something in common. They consume your psychic energy without nourishing you in return. When you are too available, you scatter your energy across the world like seeds in the wind, and most of it falls on barren soil. Jung warned that which you resist persists. When you are constantly reactive, defending, explaining, justifying, you tether yourself to the very dynamics that drain you. It's like keeping a wound open and wondering why it never heals. But what happens if you refuse to engage? What if, instead of spending your nights ruminating over what you could have said, you chose silence? What if, instead of immediately responding to that provocative message, you paused and reclaimed your center? This is not about being passive. It's about being deliberate, because there is immense power in restraint. True strength is not in meeting every attack head-on. It's in deciding which battles are even worth your breath. Jung believed that a healthy psyche knows how to retain energy within itself. That means knowing how to say no without guilt. It means sitting in silence without feeling cowardly. It means observing without being pulled into every storm. But why is this so difficult? Why do we find it so hard to simply step back? The answer lies in how we've been programmed. From a young age, we're taught to equate reaction with care, availability with love, and self-sacrifice with virtue. So, we respond to every message, answer every call, and absorb every demand as if failing to do so would make us less valuable. This conditioning creates a dangerous pattern. The more you make yourself available, the more people expect you to be. You become their emotional safety net, their emergency button, their source of validation. And here's the cruel irony. The more available you are, the less value others place on you. Because what is always abundant is rarely cherished. This is why you must learn to guard your energy like a sacred treasure. Your peace is not infinite. Your emotional capacity is not bottomless. And yet, when you scatter yourself too thin, you live under the illusion that you are strong for doing so. You are not strong. You are vulnerable. Vulnerable to manipulation. Vulnerable to opportunistic people who sense that you will always say yes, always show up, always react. Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted and loved. Many of us live trapped in that mask, saying it's okay when we are suffocating, responding immediately to avoid seeming cold, explaining ourselves endlessly as if we owe the world a justification for our very existence. But every time you do this, you abandon yourself. You trade your authenticity for approval. The cost of this trade is enormous. Your peace fractures, your vitality drains, and eventually you no longer recognize who you are without the mask. So what happens when you decide to take it off? When you stop explaining, stop apologizing, stop trying to please everyone. At first, people around you will react. Some will accuse you of being distant or cold. Others will try harder to provoke you, to draw you back into the old dance. Why? Because your withdrawal threatens their control. Your silence unsettles them. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. It is not your job to manage the emotions of others at the cost of your own. When you step back, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly, they are forced to confront themselves, their projections, their expectations, their dependency on you. And not everyone is ready for that confrontation. Here lies one of Jung's most profound insights. When you conserve your energy, you break the projections others have cast upon you. You are no longer the role they assigned you, the helper, the rescuer, the emotional sponge. You become something else entirely, a mystery. And this mystery disturbs them because it forces them to face parts of themselves they'd rather avoid. But here's the challenge. Are you ready to endure the discomfort that comes with setting boundaries? Can you tolerate being misunderstood, criticized, or even rejected for choosing yourself? Because that's what happens when you stop being reactive and start being intentional. In the stillness of your withdrawal, a new kind of power begins to awaken. A power that doesn't shout or beg. A power that simply is. Your energy is your life force. And if you don't guard it, others will claim it as their own. You might think that saying no, withdrawing, or holding back your response is a small act. But in reality, it's one of the most powerful shifts you can make. Not just for yourself, but for the entire web of relationships around you. Most of us don't realize how many of our reactions are programmed. From the moment we're old enough to understand approval and rejection, we begin to dance to the tune of others. A sigh from a parent makes us feel guilty. A disappointed glance from a friend makes us over-explain. A critical comment from a partner sends us spiraling into defensiveness. Over time, this conditioning becomes so ingrained that we no longer pause to ask, is this reaction truly mine? Or was it installed in me? Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection, the unconscious process where people offload parts of themselves onto others. The people in your life who guilt you, provoke you, or draw you into endless emotional storms are not relating to the real you. They're relating to the version of you they've constructed in their minds. The caregiver, the fixer, the listener, the one who will never say no. But here's the unsettling truth. As long as you are emotionally available on demand, you reinforce this illusion. You agree to wear the mask. And in doing so, you allow others to avoid confronting their own shadows. Consider the friend who only calls when they're in crisis. The colleague who constantly dumps their workload on you. The family member who praises your kindness but withdraws affection the moment you set a boundary. These dynamics are not random. They exist because you have unconsciously agreed to play a role. So what happens when you stop playing? At first, there's confusion, then irritation, then panic. Those who once relied on your predictability begin to flail. They try harder to trigger you, to draw you back into the dance. Guilt becomes their weapon. Emotional drama becomes their strategy. Not because they love you, not because they miss you, but because your silence has taken away their narrative control. This is where the real battle begins, not between you and them, but within yourself. Can you endure their discomfort without rushing to soothe it? Can you hold your ground as they hurl accusations, as they tell you you've changed, as they label you cold or distant? Most importantly, can you sit with the inner noise that rises in the absence of reaction, the guilt, the fear, the doubt? Because here is the paradox. When you stop responding, you think you're losing power, but in truth, you're regaining it. True silence is not the absence of words. It's the presence of mastery. It is the refusal to let someone else's emotions dictate your own. It's the conscious choice to step out of a game you never agreed to play. Jung understood this when he wrote that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires a kind of separation. A deliberate pulling back from the collective noise so you can finally hear your own voice. This withdrawal isn't an act of cowardice, it's an act of sovereignty. But make no mistake, silence has a price. It will make you incomprehensible to people who only valued you for what you gave them. They will call you arrogant, selfish, unkind. They will test your resolve, seeking cracks in your armor. And yet, their reactions are not about you. They are about the parts of themselves they've long avoided. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their dependency, their fears, their insecurities, and many will not like what they see. This is why silence is such a powerful disruptor. While you speak, you're still participating in the script. While you react, you're still tethered to their game. But when you withdraw, you break the pattern. You force others to face themselves. Some will rise to the challenge. They'll respect your boundaries, even grow from them. But others will fall away, unable to connect without the old dynamics, and that's okay. Because the purpose of silence is not to punish or manipulate. It's to return to yourself. To gather the fragments of your energy you've scattered in 1,000 directions and weave them back into wholeness. This is not an easy path. There will be moments when you doubt yourself. Moments when the loneliness feels louder than the noise you left behind. But in that space, empty, vast, and quiet, you will find something you've been missing all along. Clarity. You'll begin to see which relationships were rooted in love and which were rooted in utility. You'll begin to sense which environments nourish your spirit and which drain it dry. And you'll realize that being unavailable doesn't make you less loving. It makes your love intentional, rare, and powerful. As you master this art, your presence begins to shift. You no longer need to prove, explain, or defend. You no longer need to be everything to everyone. Instead, you become like stillwater.com on the surface, yet infinitely deep. This is the power of silence. Not passive, not weak, but fierce in its simplicity. When you finally stop being available to everyone, when you no longer rush to explain, no longer bend to accommodate, no longer respond on demand, something profound begins to unfold. At first, it feels strange. The phone goes quiet. The messages slow down. The invitations become fewer. And in that stillness, an unsettling silence rises. It's in this silence that doubts creep in. Am I being too harsh, too cold, too selfish? You may worry you're losing people, opportunities, or connections that once felt essential. And in a way, you are. But pause here and ask yourself, what are you truly losing? Are you losing those who valued you as a person, or those who only valued your constant availability? This question is not meant to wound, but to awaken. Carl Jung understood that the process of individuation, of becoming who you truly are, requires you to step away from the collective for a time, to separate yourself from the masks you've worn for others and meet the self that exists beneath them. At first, solitude feels like absence, the absence of noise, the absence of validation, the absence of being needed. But as the days pass, that solitude transforms. It shifts from a hollow echo into a sacred space. A space where you are no longer pulled in 1,000 directions. A space where your energy gathers like water returning to its source. This is not the loneliness of abandonment. It is the solitude of strength. The solitude of a soul no longer willing to betray itself just to keep others close. And then, almost imperceptibly, a new kind of clarity enters. Where there was once anxiety, there is now calm. Where there was once neediness, there is now sufficiency. Where there was once a compulsion to react, there is now the power to choose. When you stop being available to everyone, you stop being predictable. And what is rare is always more valuable. This is not manipulation. It is truth. The more you give yourself away, the less others respect the gift. But when you step back, when you no longer offer your time, attention, and energy freely, people are forced to consider what you truly mean to them. Some will disappear. They were never there for you, only for what you provided. Let them go. Others will resist. They will push, provoke, and guilt you, hoping to pull you back into the old dynamic. This is not love. It is dependency. Do not let it sway you. But there will be a few, a precious few, who will rise to meet you where you are. They will respect your boundaries. They will value your presence because they understand its rarity. These are the ones worth keeping close. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but this privilege comes at a cost." You must be willing to be misunderstood, to be called selfish, distant, even arrogant by those who are comfortable with your old patterns. You must be willing to stand alone for a time, to face the discomfort of your own company, and to let the old version of you dissolve. This is the rupture, and with rupture comes pain. But pain is not the enemy. It is the gateway. It is in this sacred isolation that a new self is born. A self that no longer seeks approval in every glance. A self that no longer reacts to every provocation. A self that no longer gives away its energy like an infinite resource. Instead, you become deliberate. You choose where your time goes. You decide who has access to your inner world. You learn that no is a complete sentence. You understand that silence is not emptiness, but presence amplified. And as this transformation unfolds, the world begins to respond differently to you. The same people who once took you for granted may now tread carefully. The same situations that once drained you may now pass without drawing you in. Your unavailability creates space for others to step up or step away. Either way, you are free. This is not the freedom of having no connections. It is the freedom of having only those connections that nourish you, that respect you, that meet you as an equal rather than a resource. When you stop being available for anything and everything, you become available for what truly matters: your peace, your purpose, your wholeness. This is the rebirth Jung spoke of. The shift from being a reactor, forever responding to the world around you, to being a creator, shaping your inner and outer reality from a place of strength. You may lose people, but you will find yourself. You may be misunderstood, but you will finally understand your own worth. You may stand alone, but in that solitude, you will realize you are already whole. This is the gift of stepping back. This is the power of becoming unavailable. You are no longer for everyone. And in that rarity, you become unforgettable.